Good morning everyone. Thanks for joining today. We have discussed couple of topics in the previous class. Like we started off with introduction, and then we understood why we choose the SAP FICO as a career path, and then lot we have discussed on and like making you understanding about evolution of SAP and all, like how SAP works. And after that, we cover the accounting terms and basic of accounting to build up your foundation, and we also cover the business process as well. So before we starting the today's topic, so I don't wanted you guys to directly jump into the SAP screen and showing all the screens and make you confused, but instead let's spend a few minutes revising everything we have learned so far, because like once your foundation is strong, the next topics will become very easy for you. So let's see like how much everyone remembers like whatever we have discussed in class. So I will be asking you guys couple of questions, and if you guys are able to remember the things which we discussed, you can feel free to answer in the chat, or else you can unmute yourself. So yeah, starting with the first question, like can anyone tell me why do business needs to perform accounting?
Business need to perform accounting to track their day-to-day operations first, and the
Hmm,
second would be to get the actual value of the business, and the main motive is to earn profit.
exactly. Someone wanna try? If they're comfortable in chat as well, just drop your answer in chat, or else if you comfortable in unmuting yourself, feel free to. Hmm. Okay, so yeah, moving on to the next question. Like, what were the five accounting principle or elements which we discussed? Like, I also told you that based on that account types, SAP post the entries. I mean, the logic to post the entries work on those. Can someone? I can give you like a hint.
Yeah,
Like, it's like
six
more of
six
correct, correct,
types:
correct.
personal account, real account, and
No,
non.
no, no. I have asked about the accounting elements which we use in
Assets,
the correct.
assets, liabilities, expenses.
Income and expenses,
Customer
revenue.
Okay, asset, liabilities, expenses, revenue, and equity. So these
Equity.
are all the five accounting elements which we will be hearing day to day in whenever we are working on the system or in real time. Like the business will be speaking in this language only, like my asset is not getting debited, why my expenses are not showing up in the reports, why my liabilities balance are very high as compared to assets. So this type of language, I mean the business language, you will be hearing day to day in your operations. So moving on to the next question, like we have also discussed about the nature of asset transaction. Like I've told you how the asset transaction works with referencing to the golden principle of accounting. So what happens when an asset increases? Like what will be the journal entry?
Asset account credited.
No.
Asset increases,
When
debit.
Asset decreases.
correct, very good. So yeah, this is what I wanted you guys. Like once you are able to answer this question, then it will be easy for you to remember the going forward whatever we will be discussing. Moving on to the next. So, what is a business process? I've explained you by giving you a reference to a coffee shop, and there were multiple departments, and I also explained you that giving example of mobile phone shop where multiple departments. So yeah, can anyone able to recollect?
It's an end-to-end process to purchase to like till payments.
It's
Mhm.
a sequence of activity to achieve business goal.
Perfect. It's a simply a sequence of activities to achieve the end business goal. Perfect. So yeah, can anyone tell me the three major business process we discussed in the last class?
P2P, procure to
uh,
pay, order to cash, and other
Record to report.
to report.
Excellent. So yeah, that's it. Like I believe that you guys are able to get it whatever we have discussed so far. I am glad for it, and I hope that the same continues for the upcoming class as well. And like as I told you, like going forward, I will be giving you the assignments which we will be discussing and covering day to day on whatever we have discussed. So, as you guys are already aware about the ERP and why do we need ERP, and also we also understood why do we need SAP, like how the SAP benefits the business, and all that things now you guys are already aware about it. So now we also understood about the accounting as well. Now today we are going to answer one important question, that is how SAP became the world's leading ERP. So that's the topic we will be covering today and understanding about the complete evolution from how the SAP started off with and what are the current technologies they have built up as of now. So whenever you search for SAP jobs, I believe like most of might have already done. So what are the terms you generally see in the JD? Can anyone? If it's wrong, no problem. Like we are here for learning. Yeah. If you feel like the answer gonna be wrong, no problem. I will correct you guys. Okay, no idea. Anyone you have just looked for SAP job and just went through the JD and there
Proficient
will be,
in
sorry.
proficient in FICO, general ledger, accounts payable, accounts
Okay.
receivable,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and experience in SAP.
So, okay. So that are the common terms which when you read, you will be able to know like they are looking for some SAP FICO consultant role, right? But there is also couple of terms like ECC, HANA, S4 HANA, public cloud, on-premise, Fiori, etc., etc. So these terms you make you get confused, like because they think like most of you guys think like these are completely a different software. Correct? Like you feel like these are something like additional software which the employer is asking, but they are not the additional software or anything. They are part of the SAP itself. So let me ask you one simple question. So how many of you still use your first smartphone which you ever brought? Like do you guys have your first smartphone which you have bought earlier when you started off your career?
None, I
No,
guess.
right?
No.
None, I guess. You're correct. Probably nobody. Why? Because technology keeps improving and every year companies releases newer version with better cameras and like faster processors and more storage and battery life. So now think about your mobile phone 20 years ago. People were using Nokia phones, right? And then came BlackBerry. And after that, Android and iPhone has completely changed the market. So did Nokia fail because it was a bad phone? Not at all. Correct? At
No.
that time, Nokia, yeah, no, because Nokia at that time was actually one of the best available phone in the market. Okay. But the expectations of customers changed. The technology changed. I mean, the business requirements also changed. And the same thing happened to SAP as well. SAP didn't wake up one morning and decided that let's build another ERP. Instead, business started asking for faster systems, better reports, and easier user interface and simpler maintenance. So SAP kept improving itself to meet those expectations. So today's class is not about like memorizing about a different SAP version. It's about understanding like why SAP changed. Once you understand the reason behind every version which SAP had introduced, you will never forget the evolution. So imagine it's the year like 1972 and there was no Google, no Amazon, no smartphone, no AI, only the computers were existed. But they were like very expensive. Only the large companies could afford them. Correct. So now think about the companies like Coca-Cola or any of the automobile companies like Mercedes or BMW. They had thousands of employees, right? Like if they have thousands of employees, they also have the different departments like purchase departments, finance department, sales department, HR department. And as I told you earlier, like each of these department used to maintain their own data. So nothing was connected. Employees had to enter the same information again and again, and the reports used to take lot of days to prepare. So mistakes were common that time. Like multiple departments were having their own software, and the data was prepared common. I mean, the data was prepared at their end by themselves without integrating or without involving any other department. So mistakes were common. So that time, five engineers working in IBM, they looked at this problem and they asked themselves, why can't business have one software that connects everything? So that simple question became the beginning of SAP. So SAP was founded in, anyone wanna guess when it was founded?
1972 or 75.
1972, that's correct. So the word SAP comes from a German name because SAP was founded in SAP. You don't need to remember the word, remember the German word. Just remember this SAP started in Germany 1972. Correct, it started in 1972. So when it started, I mean when SAP was introduced, it was introduced in the tier 2 structure, that is R2. So don't get confused with this term R/2. It is known as the architecture of building the SAP. So commonly we called it as a tier 2 structure. So when SAP was introduced as a R2, then it went to SAP R3, I mean the tier 3 structure. Then after that SAP introduced with the ECC version, and then after that it introduced the SAP HANA. Then after that it introduced the SAP S4 HANA, and then it introduced the cloud, where both public cloud and private cloud are the latest ongoing technologies of SAP. So right now, like SAP is mostly focused on the cloud technologies. Like they are investing FT amounts in building those technology. So in cloud also we get the public cloud and private cloud. So I will explain you everything in detail so that you will guys able to relate. So let's go back to almost like 50 to 45 years. At that time, companies don't have a laptops or any technology or even personal computers like we have today. Everything used to work on large computers called mainframes. So anyone of you aware about the mainframe? Anyone hear this term for the first time or they heard this term anywhere else? Okay, no worries. I will explain you. So mainframe is a big, basically one huge powerful computer that thousands of employees can connect to. So SAP when developed its first successful ERP system called R/2, which is tier 2, specifically for the mainframe systems. I mean the large systems. So it was mainly used by very large organizations such as banks, government departments, and manufacturing companies. The system was powerful, but it was also expensive. Okay. So only large enterprises could afford it. So how this used to work? So it started with employees and then mainframe, I mean the system where the employees used to work, and then SAP R2, tier 2. So this is how the flow looks like. The employees used to use this mainframe system, and based on that, the system, I mean the tier 2 system used to work. So mainframe system was the, you can say it as a computer, and R3 is the SAP tool, which was which was implemented in the mainframe system. So then something changed. So personal computers became popular. So instead of one central computer, employees started having their own computer. Because see here, what used to happen? Only one system used to be there, and multiple employees used to use this system, and they used to use this tool. I mean the SAP R3. So after the when the time changed, instead of one central computer, employees started having their own computer, and also SAP started to evolve. So then SAP introduced with the SAP R3 structure, R3 architecture. R3 architecture. So what is the R3 architecture? Does anyone know what R3 means? Like we have understood the R2, and so now what will be the R3 means? Any guesses? Just try, like if you just wanted to answer, just try it. Latest version of R2, correct? Anyone? Okay, no worries, I will explain you. As Maleshwari said, a latest version of R2 that is perfect. So what R stands? Like in both cases we see R, right? So what R does stands? So R stands as real time data processing. And what does 3 refers? As I told you earlier, 3 refers to
Third generation, I guess.
3-tier architecture. So R stands for real-time data processing, 3 refers to the 3-tier architecture. And similarly here 2 refers to the 2-tier architecture. So how does 3-tier architecture differ from 2-tier? So in 3-tier we have the presentation layer, and we have the application layer, and we have the database layer. Okay. So what are the roles and how these layers works? Starting off with the presentation layer. So presentation layer, this is what where a user actually works. So whenever you open SAP and enter any transaction code, you're working in the presentation layer. Okay. And what is application layer? Application layer is the brain of SAP. Suppose you are posting a journal entry, I mean, you are trying to post an invoice, you enter the data, right? Like, for example, posting date, GL account, amount, and all. So the application layer checks, is the account valid? I mean, the GL account valid? Is the posting date which we have entered is the correct? Or it will also check, does we have the authorization to post the data, and whatever the mandatory fields which are there in the presentation layer, are we entered or not? It will basically validate everything. Okay. And database layer is something where all the data is stored. For example, customer information, vendor information, accounting documents, everything like related to purchase order, everything is saved in the database layer. So when you enter any invoice with, do you think it will stored in database layer or any other application layer?
Database layer.
Exactly, exactly. It will get stored in the database layer. So this is about like difference between the R2 and R3 architecture. So before moving on to the next, that is ECC, you guys have any questions or any doubts, feel free to ask.
Yeah, in R2, like
Hmm,
R3 has three layers, like presentation, application, and database. In
hmm,
R2, there were only two layers.
hmm.
Am I right? And what was those two layers in R2?
So basically, as I told you, in R2 we have employees, right, and mainframe system. So when the R2 system was introduced by SAP, then they directly deployed that application in the one single system. There was no any joint system or integrated systems where multiple users can come and use the do the business operation. So like only one system was there where multiple departments used to come and enter their data. Like here you see like where presentation layer, application layer, database layer are there. But here only we have one system and one tool, that is R2 was deployed. There was no any other different layers. But here we have a different layer because we have a multiple systems which gonna use by users. So whenever, like for example, we have two systems, and two systems, the two users will be performing a different activities, right? So in that case, we will be needing the different application layers. Like whenever if I'm entering any application name, I will be needing the different layer. But here we have only one single layer, I mean the mainframe. So that is the difference.
Okay, I understood.
Anyone and still have any questions? Okay, so yeah, I see in chat no. Okay, I will take this silent as no, and moving on to the next evolution, that is ECC. I believe like many of you might heard this term ECC, right?
Yes,
So after after R3 became successful, business wanted more functionality. Companies became larger and process became more complex. So SAP kept improving system and introduced ECC. So is ECC, which stands for ERP Central Component. So ECC called as ERP Central Component. So for many years, ECC became the standard ERP system used across all over the world. Even today, if you see, many companies still use ECC because migrating to S/4HANA takes time, efforts, and investment. But however, like SAP is asking for all the ECC companies which are you still using the ECC to migrate from ECC to the S/4HANA till 2027. So this is a due date to migrate, but it may varies. Like still SAP might extend a little bit. Give me a minute. Sorry, I just had to drink a water. Yeah, so as I told you, SAP ECC is something which if you still most of the companies are using, but however the SAP had issued a deadline of 2027. Till 2027, the companies are suggested to move to the latest technologies like S/4HANA cloud or private cloud. And like maybe as if you landed up in any of the implementation project in future, you will have a great learning in terms of ECC, the migration part. Okay, so after like successful of R3, then SAP has introduced with the ECC, and even today, as I told you, many of the companies still uses ECC. As we migrating to the S4 HANA takes lot of time. Like the project may take almost like 1 year, 2 years, because the requirements changes from ECC to the S4 HANA. It will take lot many years for companies to implement the S4 HANA. Okay, so here also the layers work same, but in ECC the SAP has introduced couple of functionality. So that is the only difference where the business can perform their operations effectively and efficiently. However, the working of the application is same in ECC as well. So moving on to the next, then SAP introduced the SAP HANA. Anyone heard this term before and know anything about SAP HANA?
No, sure.
Okay, no worries. Yeah. So now imagine like why SAP introduced HANA. So let's imagine like okay, Kalyani have heard already. Kalyani, if possible, can you just tell what you know about HANA? Just heard but doesn't know about that. Okay. Kalyani, wanna try like how much you know about HANA? Like where did you hear and
I
what
mean,
do you know about HANA?
yeah. In a memory column oriented relationship database and application platform for developed by SAP.
Okay, got it. Yeah, like it's more of a technical way, but yeah, we will understand more from the business point of view so that it will be easy for us to remember why SAP introduced SAP HANA. So imagine like a real business scenario. Suppose like you are working as a CFO of any of the top company, and every second thousands of customers are placing order. I mean, you are running one of the leading marketplace, and you see like thousands of customers are placing order, and millions of transactions are happening daily. And between the operations, you ask your CEO ask, could you show me today's sales? Would it be acceptable if the system says, please wait until tomorrow? Of course not, right? Because business decision needs real-time information. So when you're doing your business at a large level, we will be having, we will be having more business, more transactions. Okay, we will be doing more transaction and more data will be coming into the system, right? So traditional database stored data mainly on hard disk. I mean, in the ECC and all, in the lower technologies R2 and R3, the database stored data mainly on hard disk. Hard disk are good for storing large amount of data, but they are slower when compared to RAM. So know most of you might aware about the RAM. So every time SAP needed to generate a report, it had to read the data from this hard disk. As the data amount of the data is increased, our reports become slower because hard disk takes lot of time to get the data. I mean to extract the data from the disk. So which is faster as compared to your hard disk or a RAM? I repeat, like which will be the faster to get a data?
RAM.
Exactly, RAM will be the faster. So SAP had the same thought. Instead of reading everything from the hard disk, why not keep the frequently used data directly in RAM? Wrong, Kalyani. It's a hard. It's a RAM because hard disks take lot of time to bring up the data. So that's what SAP came up with, that instead of reading everything from the hard disk every time, why not keep the frequently used data directly in RAM? So traditional database were like hard disk, and then it flow, then read data, and then general report. So the data used to get stored in the hard disk, and then whenever if a user pull up the report, it used to go to the hard disk, then read report, and then it used to present it as a report. Okay. And what changed in SAP HANA? So in SAP HANA, it was the hard disk got replaced with the RAM, and it was like it got like instant access. The access to the data was instant, and the business used to get a real-time reports. So this was the huge difference when the SAP was introduced the HANA, because it replaced the complete hard disk with a RAM, where the system the data access was instant, and the business was able to pull the real-time reports instantly. But earlier, before introducing the HANA, the data was used to get stored in the hard disk, and the system, the reading of the data which was requested by the business used to take a lot more time, because lot more of transaction used to get posted, and the generational of the generating the report used to get a lot of time. So when the SAP HANA was introduced, it got replaced by the RAM, and as I told you, we have a quick access to the data, and the generating of the reports were faster and easier. What does the SAP HANA stands for? So SAP HANA stands for High Performance Analytics Analytic Appliance. So SAP HANA stands as High Performance Analytic Appliance. So the biggest advantage of SAP HANA is that it is an in-memory database, as someone have told in the beginning. So instead of reading data from hard disk every time, it processes directly data in memory, making reporting much faster. So in SAP HANA, speed was not only the improvement. SAP also wanted to simplify the way data was stored. If you see in ECC, the financial information was spread across many tablets. This made our reporting more complicated, because hard disk is something it used to get the data stored, but when we wanted the data, it used to take a lot more time, and it became more complicated for reporting. So SAP HANA came and it simplified the data model. So instead of maintaining multiple separate tables for the financial information, SAP introduced the Universal General, where most financial information postings were made, and that is called as a ACDOCA. Does anyone aware about this table called Asidoka? Have heard heard this term before? Okay, no. So, like we will be discussing about this in upcoming classes. But to give you an overview, so in SAP, mostly SAP stores the data in tables. Like we will be covering that as well. So whatever data we will be inputting in the system, that same data will sitting and stored in the tables. So I will show you what table means. But as of till we just understand like whatever the data we enter, that's stored in the table. So similarly, whatever the technologies which SAP had introduced, that same data used to store in the tables, like different tables. But when and HANA was introduced, SAP introduced one of the new table that is ACIDOCA. So earlier, all the data used to stored in multiple tables. Like for example, purchase department, whatever the inputs they used to give, the same data used to stored in the different table which is related to purchase. And similarly, finance, the same data used to store in the different table related to the finance. So it used to take a lot of time to pull up the reports. But when SAP had introduced the ACDOCA table, so whatever the data you entered in any of the department, the same data can be visible in the ACDOCA table. So that is the one of the biggest change or the upgrade which SAP brought when it introduced the SAP HANA. So the introduction of the SAP HANA was to reduce the redundancy, improves consistency, and makes reporting much easier. Okay, so now we will understand like what is the difference between the SAP ECC and S4 HANA. So in SAP ECC, financial information was stored in different tables, as I told you, and depending upon the business process, it used to take a lot more times. And when SAP S4HANA was introduced, SAP consolidated much of the all the data into one single table, that is ACIDOCA. So this is why you often hear the term universal general. So ACIDOCA is also called as a universal general, and it is also known as a single source of truth because all the data is stored in the single table, and from this table we can pull up the data easily. And ECC also introduced, I mean the SAP also introduced the business partner. In ECC, we have the separate master data for customer and vendor. I mean, we used to create the separate customer and a vendor in ECC. But when SAP introduced the S4HANA, the concept of business partner came. So, what is the difference between both of them? For example, in ECC, we used to create a separate master data for both vendor and customer. But when the business partner introduced, we can create a customer as well as vendor as well as in the single master data. So let me give you one real example. For example, a customer can be a vendor and vendor can be a customer, right? That can be possible because we can procure the goods from that same vendor and we can sell the goods to the same vendor. That can happen, correct? So instead of creating multiple master data, why won't we create a one single master data that is a business partner? So here where the SAP introduced the business partner concept, now one master data can serve as a multiple roles. For example, customer and supplier, making master data easier to maintain. It's not like we creating multiple master data. So as I told you, like we can use the same, like we can deal with the same vendor and the customer to perform the business operations, right? So These are some of the most common, like we can say, the upgrades which SAP had introduced from ECC to the S4HANA. Okay. Any questions as of now?
This separate customer and vendor master data, can you explain once?
Okay. So, uh, like for example, right now you are manufacturing a mobile phone, correct? And you wanted to procure a raw materials. What you will do? You will create a vendor master, okay, and you will create an invoice. And once after you manufacture that mobile phone, now you wanted to sell that. So in that case, the vendor who supplied you the raw material is the same vendor you need to sell the mobile phone. I mean, he will be the customer now. So in ECC, what you used to do, you used to create multiple master data, right? And in this case, you will create one separate vendor master data and one separate customer master data, right? So it used to take a multiple, like it will show it as a multiple master data, correct? So in SAP HANA introduced, in our case, the vendor is also a supplier and he is also a customer for us. So rather, I am creating a multiple master data. I will create one master data like a business partner where I can use that same vendor or a supplier or a customer to carry out my business operations. It's not like me creating the multiple master data and taking the more of like a system, making the system more of like I mean the heavy data usage. So that was something which SAP had introduced in the SAP HANA, S4 HANA business partner concept. I hope that clears now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyone still have any questions? Moving on to the next topic.
Yes, Shravan. Does that S4 stand for something else or is just a name?
No, no, same.
Okay.
SAP HANA and S4 HANA are both same. Only we like in like there are only couple of functionalities or you can say some of the upgrades which were introduced. But the introduction of whatever like AC Doka and business partner concept came from the SAP HANA only.
Okay. But
Okay, shall I move on to the next topic?
yes, please.
Yeah, so after that SAP also introduced the SAP Fiori as well. So anyone heard this term for the first time or know about this? Like anyone heard this Fiori word before? Mm. Okay, no worries. So earlier, users mainly worked with SAP GUI. So SAP GUI is nothing but a SAP application. So SAP GUI is where like we will be installing the SAP application and you used to work on the system. Like whenever you wanted to carry out your business operation, you just need to click on the application and it will open up the SAP interface. But which look like more of technical and require remembering a transaction codes. Like whenever you open up the SAP application, whatever the transaction or whatever the activities you want to perform, you need to enter the transaction codes. For each of the every business transaction, I mean business operation, there will be a transaction codes working for that. So you need to remember those transaction code in order to carry out your functions. And it used to take a lot more time to remember those transaction codes. Task focus visual design. Correct, you can say that. And yeah, transaction code is something like task focus visual design. But it used to take a lot more time to remember those transaction codes. So SAP wanted a more modern experience, and that's why SAP had introduced the SAP Fiori. So here, instead of transaction codes, we will have a tiles and a search bar and dashboards and responsive screens that works well even on tablets and mobile phones. So In SAP Fiori, think of it like a smartphone. Like within a clicks, you can able to open an application and carry out the functions. You don't need to enter any transaction codes or remember any T codes or remember any application name or any T code. So whatever, whenever you are there in the SAP Fiori screen, you just need to enter the application name or whatever the access you have for that application that will be displayed in front of you. You just need to select that tile and you just need to carry out your function. You don't need to enter any T code or any transaction codes for that. So we will be also seeing this in a real time as well, like how this looks. So right now these terms will be sounding very like high for you. I mean, like it will sound more complicated for you, but just understand like why the SAP had introduced this Fury. Okay, and also one more thing is like embedded analytics. So in older system, what happens whenever you wanted to prepare any charts and dashboard, you need to export the data to the Excel and you used to build the reports and dashboards based on that. But when SAP S4HANA was introduced, it also included the embedded analytics, allowing users to view KPIs, charts, and report directly within a SAP. Okay, so moving on to the next topic, that is deployment models. So
Man, can you
there are three,
explain?
sorry,
Sorry. Can you explain what is the difference between SAP Fiori and S4HANA?
see, SAP Fiori and S4HANA, there is not much difference. For example, if I will give one example. So as I told you, SAP GUI is something like a act as an application, right? So whenever if you are wanted to perform or any carry out any business operation, you need to click on that application and carry out your business functions, right? But when SAP, if here is nothing but like you don't need any application or anything, they it will be more of like one T code or else web-based link. You just need to open that web-based link in your browser or anywhere, and you just need to carry out your function. I mean, the screen will be totally different. The screen where the SAP screen which you see in the application, it won't be there. The screen will be more of like your smartphone screen. So whenever you open your smartphone, you will see all your application at one place, right? So depending upon your need, you will be opening that application. So similarly in Fury is also same like that only. Here you won't be needed to navigate to each one of the transaction codes. Here, whatever the activities you are doing, I mean the whatever the T codes you have access, that same will be displayed in your open home screen. And based on your business operation or a function, you just need to click on that application or a tile and carry out your business operations. And also, like in the older version, SAP didn't introduce anything where you just view the data in charts or any KPIs or all that. But when it comes to the SAP HANA also introduced the this feature called paper, like making the data more of at a chart level and KPIs so that the reporting will be much more easier and can be done in the efficiently. So that is the difference. Right now, this may sound like this make you confused, but once we started, I will show you in the real time, in real time as well, like how does it differs. I hope that this answer your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So moving on to the deployment targets, we have three deployment targets currently: on-premise, private cloud, and then public cloud. So what does deployment targets means? So deployment target is something where we gonna be working, the technology we were gonna working. So right now there are three deployment targets. So on-prem is something which the S4 HANA, SAP ECC and SAP HANA. So whatever the terms we are seeing here, SAP HANA, SAP ECC, SAP S4 HANA, all are built on on-prem. They are called as on-premise solutions. I mean, here you will be working mostly based on the SAP GUI application. And private cloud is something which is more like we will be working on the web-based solution as well as we will be working on the GUI application as well. Like here, the SAP provide both options. Like you can work on the application, or else if you wanted to work on the web-based, I mean, on the Chrome or any browser, you can do that. And public cloud is purely like web-based solution where you will be having the links to access the system. You just need to click on those links and you can work on the web-based solution. And what is the benefit here is that you can just log in into your mobile phone as well and you can carry out your business operations. So these are some of the deployment targets in SAP landscape. So we will also cover all this right now. Like when I show you in a visual way, then you will be able to easily remember. Just right now understand the terms on-prem, private cloud, and public cloud. I will explain you like more in details. Okay, so as of now, anyone have any questions? Okay, no, no, yeah. I hope you guys are able to understand whatever I am trying to teach you. If you guys still have any questions, feel free to reach out me on WhatsApp or reach out to KNR so he can pass on me that questions so that I can recover that topic as well in the next class. So today, like whatever I have explained you, I just wanted to keep it more of like simple ways of making you understand because one these terms are like something new for you guys. So I don't wanted to stretch more of explaining this because in real time, whatever we have learned so far, that things we won't be you like remembering or using like in real time or during the operations. But it's important to know because in interviews they will ask you like what is the difference between ECC HANA and what how it works and what are the like what are the deployment options, what differs from R to R3, all that question they're gonna ask. But when you started off working as a consultant, you won't be needed to remember these terms, but still it's important to know them. Okay. So from tomorrow onwards, I will try to bring up the system and yeah, I will be like more of like hands on providing you the hands-on experience. Any questions, any doubts, or anything you wanna ask before we winding up?
Okay, good, Shravan. I think, guys, I'll also start creating a WhatsApp group for easy communication. So those who still see later, maybe